Я давно мечтала сделать арку у себя дома. Наконец нашла в себе силы и изучила, как ее можно сделать самой. Да еще и дешево. Честно говоря, думала, что все будет быстрее, но так как делала такое я первый раз, то все тщательно отмеряла по 5 раз. На материалы я потратила меньше 2000 рублей, и то самым дорогим была грунтовка. Финальный этап работы, что получилось в итоге, я уже показала в своем авторском дизайн-канале по ссылке в описании профиля.
Просто тащусь по аркам в доме, а мужу они не нравятся. Как только он уехал в рейс, пошли крысиные мысли и таки решила сделать одну штучку. Напилила планок и набила часть из них на стены, а к ним вырезанные кусочки гипсокартона. Вставила на места вторую часть планочек и прикрепила их. После чего нашинковала гипсокартон вот таким образом, чтобы он мог принять нужную форму. Немного помог сосед. Тут с ним же крепим гипсокартон. На следующий день уже одна зашпаклевала получившуюся конструкцию и довела ее до ума. Самое ржачное, что муж до сих пор не заметил эту арку. Если захотите повторить сие чудо, то сделала подробную инструкцию и опубликовала ее в своем дизайн-блоге в описании профиля. Вот здесь.
От якраз зараз нам стали в пригоді оці саморізики, дивіться, типа Сімпсонів, тільки в СВ, бачите? Щоб скріпити оці CD-профіля через 20 см отут. Завдяки оцій плоскій шляпці не буде випирати гіпсокартон, вони йдуть за лицо. От якраз для арок і для коробів вони просто от необхідні.
I'm building a huge arched doorway where my kitchen wall used to be, and in my last video I ripped out that kitchen wall, which was non-load bearing, and I'm replacing it with an arc. As you can see, I'm using a pattern that is not a semicircle, it is an ellipse, and placed a couple of nails and tied a string to it to make a perfect ellipse. I cut it a little wider than the opening. This way I'll be able to scribe the edges to the wall. You can see here my wall is a little bit wider than usual because it's a plaster wall. So that was just giving me ideas for how thick my wall is going to be. Standard walls are 4.5. The plaster in the top corner is over 5.5. Before I can get to that though, I need to clean up this top edge. So I taped off the area once again. I used an angle grinder with a masonry bit to clear it up, removing the plaster as well as the nails and other metal. Now I have my template in place and I'm about to mark the inside edge of the 2x4 upright. It is tight to the other wall, so this will give me a full and accurate width. I'll be cutting that width off, but half of it on each side. Here I am in the shop marking half of that width with a drywall square on both sides so that the arch is the same distance on both sides. It ended up right at 32 inches. Coincidentally, that's the same distance as other arches in my house. Now that I have this first template, I'm going to make another one using the scrap from the piece of OSB that I used to make the first piece. It'll end up being in 2 pieces because the scrap won't allow for me to make it in one piece, and it doesn't really matter if it's in one anyway. I marked it 1 foot short, and then I'll use another piece of scrap to make that last foot work out. So I'll have 2 templates for the arch that will be identical once it's assembled. Here I am quickly cutting this piece. The total width of this arch is just over 90 inches, and it spans the entire gap of the kitchen perfectly. One final cut and we are ready to go on to the next step, which will be adding 2x4 block spacers on the inside lined up with the top piece of wood. I then attach them with an 18 gauge crown stapler on the top piece of wood only. As you can see, the bulk of the curve is covered in small blocks of wood, which will give good backing for my drywall. Now it's time to go inside and install it. Where the kitchen wall intersected, I am adding insulation as I can. This is mineral wool insulation. Then I add 2x4 blocking to attach my OSB arched templates. I'm just using standard construction screws. I'm also filling in this gap on the left side with a small piece of 2x4 for plenty of sturdy solid backing. I use plenty of screws to make it nice and sturdy before adding the full width solid piece of OSB on the dining room side of the kitchen. Once I had a satisfactory number of screws into it, I trimmed off the piece of 2x4 flush with the curve of the OSB. I've moved into the kitchen now and started with the 1-foot piece and then added the larger piece with all of the small blocks already attached to it. It is screwed into place and just about ready to add some drywall. I added extra screws on every other 2x4 block going around the curve. The uneven nature of the plaster that was in there before means that I'm probably going to go with 1/4-inch drywall on all sides and then fill it out with drywall mud. I hope you're enjoying the process, as I've got 3 or 4 more arches to do in my house after this one's finished. Follow along and comment to let me know what you think about my project and what you'd have done differently, or give me some congratulations on how I'm doing. Thanks for watching. I'm having fun, and so that's the most important part. It's looking arch-tastic.